With all of these leaders in the crowd, it's exciting to introduce you tonight to two members of the next generation of leadership, Dorian Murray Thomas and Christopher Eley. As you will see, they are leaders of exceptional talent and poise, which is surpassed only by their commitment to making a better world for other people. Some of you may remember Chris back when he was in 8th grade and he spoke at Be the Change. He had this preposterously deep voice that if you closed your eyes, you'd swear belonged to a famous singer in the prime of his career. Well, now if you look at what he's accomplished for the Newark community, you'd swear it was a resume of a veteran nonprofit executive, not a man who's barely 20 years old. Whether hosting dinners for the homeless or starting a scholarship at our high school, Chris is truly being the change he wants to see in the world. And if you know Dorian's name, it might be because you read about her accomplishments in the Star Ledger or saw her on TV, or as Glamour Magazine's one of their College Women of the Year. And if you went back in time to my math class at Team and asked yourself, which of these kids is going to use their voice and their drive to advocate for a better world for others, you undoubtedly would have chosen the little girl who was arguing with the teacher. And you would have been right. Now that little girl is all grown up, and just like Chris, Dorian is extending her argument to the world. If it's not right, it must be fixed. If people are struggling, they must be helped. And if nobody's helping, it's up to us. That's the mentality that both of our next two speakers have always had. That's the mindset that leads me to believe that with leaders like these, our future is in good hands. Please welcome to the stage Chris Eley and Dorian Murray Thomas.
Good evening. My name is Chris Eley, and I'm a member of the class of 2012. 8 years ago, I was on this very stage as an 8th grader. Clearly sporting a Don Corleone original.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dorian Murray Thomas. I'm a member of class of 2012, and last week I graduated from Swarthmore College. Like my brother Chris over here, I've been making some big moves of my own lately, although mine have been without the pinstripe suit. I was recently named one of Glamour Magazine's College Women of the Year of 2016 for my work serving girls through my organization, She Wins, Inc. It was truly an honor to be recognized on a national platform for doing work that matters most to me.
Being on stage with Dorian tonight feels like deja vu. As you can see here, we both spoke at our 8th grade graduations nearly 10 years ago. I met Dorian in 2007 when I entered Team my 8th grade year. Now, I usually tell people I came to Team because my younger brother was already a student there. But the real reason is I'd seen a play at Team and I wanted to meet Courtney Loke, who's actually a kid teacher now. That was unrelated, I'm just saying. But in truth, it was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
I know many of you have heard stories about students at Team, and all over KIPP really, earning everything. Our desks, our chairs, our shirts. It's a tradition that still lives on at KIPP today. But when I think back on those times at Team, I realize that all of these things were designed to create a common belief that in order to achieve what you want, you have to work for it. Team Academy was a community where going above and beyond was not only a value students were expected to uphold, but one that the teachers were expected to embody too. One of my fondest memories at Team was taking the liberation arts courses with Miss Morris and Mrs. Martin. We talked about real issues affecting the community in our class, and we were reminded that we could be the ones to help find the solutions. This class was a huge inspiration to me as I was designing the curriculum for my girls' leadership program at She Wins. Not only the type of education I received at Team, but the way I was encouraged to see myself in the world still shapes me today.
Gandhi's mantra, "Be the change you wish to see in the world," was commonly heard at Team. But for me, the idea of giving back to my community started at home and in church. We didn't have a lot growing up. My family lived in a 3-bedroom apartment that housed up to 10 people at any given time. I watched my parents give even when they didn't have. My father once told me, "Son, if you gain the whole world and never pull anyone else up, you haven't done anything." So I latched on to this idea, but I wondered, how could I pull anyone anywhere? Growing up in Newark, I assumed early on that if I was going to be able to change someone's life, I needed to be rich.
Like Chris, I was also inspired to give back by lessons learned at home. I spent most of my time outside of school shadowing my mother, Dana Murray. She was a teacher and social worker during my childhood in the city of Newark, and she currently works as the Director of Community Relations here at KIPP, New Jersey. She never stopped doing for our community. I watched her meet with families and even donate books from our house to her students in class when her school couldn't afford to buy new ones. I've always been inspired by her and the way she always supported the people in her life. Our lives changed drastically when my father was killed in the summer of 2002, a summer I would later learn was called the Bloody Summer here in Newark. He was killed on his way to pay my school tuition at the Chad School. My father, Arlie Samuel Llewellyn Thomas, immigrated to the U.S. from a small town in Berbice, Guyana, just a few years younger than I am today. I have memories of my father doing everything from working at AutoZone to owning his own cab to eventually owning his own store. When I look back on experiences that have shaped me most, I often think about my father and how he spent his life, even down to its last moments, making sure that I had access to a quality education. My father's legacy and my mother's commitment to improving the lives of others have been some of the most profound influences on the woman I am today.
How could I change anything, though? We weren't rich, but I was determined to change that. One of the most pivotal moments in my life happened while I was in high school. I'd watch every day as my mom sat in the dining room and prayed for money to pay the rent. Eventually, her prayers became my own. God, we need a miracle. But then I realized I could be the miracle I'm asking for, the change I wanted to see. I had to be an active participant in my success if I wanted to help my family and my community someday. From that day on, I decided I was going to spark any changes I wanted to see. Yet, here I was attempting to change my world, but still lacked the wealth I thought was required to change it.
For high school, I was accepted into the White Foundation and received a merit-based scholarship to attend the Northfield Mount Hermon School in Western Massachusetts. For 4 years, I alternated between two seemingly radically different worlds, my high school and my hometown. The sharp contrast between the types of education I had access to and the lack of resources in my community became clearer to me than ever before. Alternating between these two communities sparked my interest in educational access. And during my holiday breaks at home, I became increasingly involved in tutoring and mentoring work with Newark organizations in order to create better educational opportunities for kids in our city.
Despite my insecurity about not having the wealth I thought it took, I decided to take action. One day around Christmas, I was talking with Kiana Wiley, also a KIPP alumni, and I shared my dream of leaving gifts on people's doorsteps in the middle of the night. She said, "That's a great idea, but that sounds dangerous." She agreed to help me realize my vision, but pushed me to find an organized way to do it. So the next day I called her and told her we were starting a nonprofit. How would we do this? I had no clue. So I spent 5 hours a day at Newark's Public Library learning about nonprofits, I founded K-Heart in 2012 at the age of 19. Within 3 weeks, we raised close to $10,000 for our first event.
While I spent a lot of time tutoring and mentoring young people throughout high school and college, things took a real turn for me in my sophomore year at Swarthmore when I applied to and was awarded the Lang Opportunity Scholarship Program, which was granted to only 6 sophomores in the school. I earned a $10,000 grant to develop a social action project of my choosing. Around the time that I was applying for the Lang project, I had learned that there had been 10 deaths in 10 days in our city. 10 deaths in 10 days. I decided I would design and implement a program for girls like me in the city of Newark who had been affected by homicide. It was in that moment that She Wins was born. I developed She Wins from that grant and then ultimately expanded it into a nonprofit that serves girls across the city today.
K-Heart enhances lives by inspiring individuals to positively affect their world. We find creative ways to impact lives in 3 core tiers: the individual, the family, and the community. Simply put, we spread good and lead by example.
She Wins, Inc. offers a leadership program for girls in Newark ages 10 to 15 years old who are affected by violence. At She Wins, we teach our girls that they are more than a stereotype, statistic, zip code, or anything else that tries to convince them that they are anything less than amazing and capable of achieving their dreams. Our goal is to empower the next generation of Newark's young women leaders to use their stories as building blocks for social change. In doing so, we ensure that our girls are not merely victims of the issues that affect their lives, but advocates for their solutions. Since our founding in April of 2015, we've served close to 50 girls in the city of Newark. Between our community service projects on our own and in partnerships with other community service projects, She Wins scholars have touched the lives of over 1,000 children and families in the city of Newark. She Wins has enabled our girls to do everything from leading presentations on social issues before Newark City Council to advocating for policies that support girls' education before the congressman on Capitol Hill. At our annual gala on June 14th, we'll be awarding an Against All Lies scholarship to one of our scholars, Celeste Hobson, a She Wins scholar who's an 8th grader today, but will be a 9th grader at the Dublin School in Massachusetts in the fall. Our organization has been featured on USA Today, the Star Ledger, Fox Nightly News, and Glamour Magazine. I was recently invited to attend the United States of Women Summit at the White House, happening in a couple weeks because of my work with She Wins. And I say all these things not to brag, not to highlight my own accomplishments, but to highlight the impact that She Wins is having on our community, on our kids.
Since 2012, K-Heart has sponsored over 150 families through Newark through the holiday feast. Once you decide to immerse yourself and become a part of change, you begin to see things in a bigger way. Our first event was as simple as catering food and buying gifts for the families. But during the interviews for the selected children, I found that simple held many meanings. I met a 7-year-old girl who had been lovingly nicknamed Cupcake by her friends and family. When I asked Cupcake what she wanted most for Christmas, her answer stunned me. Just a box of cupcakes. Cupcake, seriously, if I can leave today and buy you anything you wanted, what would it be? Cupcake smiled at me and gave the same request. I was speechless. Here I was in the cafeteria of Camden Street School, where at the age of 7, I was the recipient of a similar program. But it was 7-year-old Cupcake who put it all in perspective. How was it that this little girl, who along with her mother was homeless, often going without proper nourishment and clothing, and all she wanted for Christmas was a box of pink cupcakes? I learned that something so simple can be so big for someone else. Simple things, big impact.
I am being the change I wish to see in the world by doing the work that matters most to me and empowering the next generation of young women leaders in the process. With the work of She Wins and other girls-based organizations here in the city of Newark, we are rewriting the narrative of what people believe is possible for Newark girls. My ultimate career would allow me to fuse my passion for education, education policy, and youth development. I was recently accepted into the Teach for America North Jersey Corps for 2016. However, I deferred the acceptance until 2017 so that I'll be better able to run our girls' leadership programs at She Wins both this summer and throughout the school year.
Most recently, we launched the Agents for Change Scholarship, which is an exclusive award for KIPP high school students who are impacting their world. I'm proud to be the first KIPP alumni to offer an academic grant to fellow KIPP students. My hope is to spark a trend. After all this time, I finally come to understand that you do have to be rich in order to change the world. You must be rich in two areas: passion and purpose. Your purpose will drive you to do the work that matters, and your passion will harvest the riches within you. I'm sharing my wealth by following my dream. Together we
are the change.